How you guys doing today? First and foremost, I'm doing well.
So how you doing? You're going to get a substitute. This is twice now. We've always said you can get better at this.
All is well. I'll just answer you guys' questions. You guys got to do all the work.
Go ahead.
Travis Brown with the Eagle College Station 2. How has recruiting changed in the NIL era, and how is building a roster changed to your perspective?
Yeah, so the thing that we all have to realize is NIL is here, okay, and it's real as far as the recruiting thing. But the unique part for us here is that we're not allowed to have those conversations with the prospects at all, so we can do what we have to do as far as the recruiting aspect, and that stays the same. But as far as the NIL, we're not allowed to have those conversations at all with those guys. So it's pretty easy for us on our part.
Andrew Hattersley with K247. Working with BGA and getting to know them over the last couple of years, what do you feel like makes him an effective recruiter, as you've got to see him?
Yeah, just watching him grow from when he first got here. Obviously, he's been at some really good programs, from Wake Forest to Georgia. Spent some time at Rutgers. The biggest thing for BJ is he understands relationships. He does a really good job relating to the players. Also does a really good job just building relationships with the parents and high school coaches. So that's the first part where we do anything in any business that you're in or any job you have is can you build relationships, and I think he does a really good job at that.
Brad Zorneman, Houston Chronicle. Elijah, how do you all balance the idea of recruiting nationally, but also knowing that there's a lot of talent right here in this state and in a couple hours from College Station in a lot of different directions? And what do you tell the Texas high school coaches? Because I know one of your strengths, of course, is recruiting the Northeast. So how do you balance that?
Well, the first thing you want to do is take care of home, okay? And we're going to take care of our backyard before anything else. When you look at our staff, all our staff have parts of Houston. All our staff have parts of Dallas. We're going to take care of home before we do anything else. And then from there, you rely on just your connections you have in other places. Like for myself, I am a Northeast guy, so I do have connections there, but it has to be a fit. It has to be a fit wherever you go. But the first thing we want to do is take care of our kids right here in our home state. And even just for talking D-line alone, I look at our freshman class at D-line, a lot of those guys are all in-state guys.
On the transfer portal, what impact does that have on the way you guys put together a roster and just via the high school ranks and the transfer portal?
If you look at like I said again, we talk about NIL first, now we're talking about the portal. It's all new and it's all here. I think each program is different. We're going to look at what's the best fit for our team, what can help our team be successful. That doesn't mean that we're going to go more high school or more portal. We're going to see what fits for us, okay, and what's the best thing for us to do as far as building the best team to put on the field.
You have arguably the most talented D-line in the country. What are the challenges of not only finding playing time for everybody, but keeping everybody happy in this era where a player creates issues?
It's about creating the relationships, okay, amongst that room, and everybody said we're the most talented. Well, we have to go out on the field and show that. But the most important thing is this. Do they like being around each other? Okay, do we create a room where there is a family atmosphere? Okay, we talk about something when we break the huddle. We always say EST, and that's everybody shines together. And that's not something that the coaches came up with. The D-line came up with that. Okay, so for those guys to come up with a huddle break that says EST, everybody shines together. That's saying that they're all on the right page. Okay, those guys are close. Those guys spend a lot of time with each other outside of football. So we don't have issues worrying about who's getting the best playing time. And the more we have, and we can play in waves and keep guys fresh throughout the whole game, I think we can be successful. And those guys understand that and they buy into that.
Travis Brown with Bryan College Station Eagle. What did Terry Price mean to you as a person? And I believe you said that how much is playing for him going to be a message of the defensive line this year?
Coach Price made an impact on many people, within the program, outside the program, coaches, support staff, players. He's a dear friend of mine. I looked up to Coach Price. He made the transition for myself and my family easy when we came to Texas A&M. It's something that doesn't have to be said or talked about. I think we don't have to push it as a coaching staff. Those players really love Coach Price. Those players endure Coach Price. And I think it's going to be something internally that we're all going to try to put our best foot forward for Coach Price. That's what he'll want, you know. And I think those guys internally, they'll all have their own chip on their shoulder to play hard for Coach Price.
Have you had any kind of early indication will the defensive line be yours to coach at this point, or how are y'all handling that moving forward?
Like I said, that'll be a decision for Coach Fisher to decide on. You know, however, it's always been a close room where myself and Coach Price worked really well together. So we never looked at it as, hey, the DNs are your guys, the D tackles are my guys. We coached them all together. You know, we met together. We did a lot of things together with those guys. At times we had to break for maybe individual drills or something like that. But like I said, I coached all four my whole career. And again, I have a relationship with every D lineman there is on the roster. So whatever coach decides to do, we'll be fine with.
Hey, Coach. Billy Embody was on 3. What makes Connor Wakeman tough to defend from your vantage point, coaching the D line to get after him?
Well, he can hurt you through the air or with his feet. You know, I think anytime a quarterback brings that dynamic, you know, it makes it tough on what we can do in defense. You always have to account for him. You know. And like I said, not only that, man, he makes people around him better. You know, his leadership skills and the way he goes about controlling the offense, he makes those guys better, you know. So he's a guy that gives us a lot of problems in practice. But like I said, that whole quarterback room, you know, not just Connor, that whole room is really special. And I think any of those guys, whoever they decide to put on the field, is going to give us issues during practice.
Now you are associate head coach and you've gotten a chance to kind of fill in for Jimbo in a few of these things. Is head coaching something that you see sometime down the line in your future? And what are these kind of reps, these things done for you in that regard?
I'm forever grateful for the opportunity that Coach Fisher gave me. And the biggest thing for me is doing the best job I can do where I'm at. And that's being a defensive line coach at Texas A&M. And I'm going to do that as best as I can. And whatever opportunity comes from that, that'll be God's blessing, you know. But right now I focus on trying to put the best D-line out on the field for you guys this upcoming season.
I'm curious, you developed a reputation as a really strong recruiter and being able to help sign some really high-profile guys. What is your ethos and your philosophy of recruiting? What is it that you lean on to be successful in that?
You know, as a football coach, you never want to create a stigma of just being a recruiter. You also want to be a guy that's known as a developer, developer of talent, developer of character, just trying to develop the whole young man. The biggest thing I'll say is this, you know, we give out credit to individuals, but our support staff, our coaching staff, I think we do a really good job working together on building a family-like atmosphere. And when families come on campus and spend time with us on official visits or unofficial visits, they walk away feeling like, you know, this is home. And I think you can't put just the success on one coach, you know, because like I said, at the end of the day, as a staff, and not just our full-time coaching staff, our support staff, our wives, our families, they do a really good job. And when families leave from College Station and spend time at Texas A&M, they walk away from it really feeling like it's family. And I think that's the best thing you can do is be yourself. The school sells itself, you know, and now it's just what's the people want to be like us around these young men.
What have you learned from DJ Durkin, you know, and taken from him, and vice versa, obviously, in the past year that he's been on board?
One thing I learned from Coach Durkin is how much family means to him. Even with our strenuous schedule as coaches, he always said makes time for family, okay? And that's something that I adore about Coach Durkin and how important family is. The next thing I learned from him is, man, what's best for the players? Okay, what do our players do well, and let's make it easier for them. Allow them to play fast without the thinking, and like I said, less is more. When the guys enjoy doing what they're doing and when they play hard and they don't have to think too much. So those are some things that I really love about Coach Durkin and what I learned from him.
In terms of, what is y'all's approach coming off the 5-7 season in terms of saying, you know, that was maybe an aberration and moving forward? How are y'all handling that going into this season with obviously a lot of expectations?
You know, our biggest thing is we cannot allow expectations to predict the way we perform. As a staff, as our players, we understand that we did not finish the way we needed to finish last year, and this year has to change. I think our players are ready for that. Our staff is ready for that. And again, we know we had to get better, but we had a really good spring. The morale around our team is really good, and we're looking forward to just getting back on the field soon.
Guys like Kenny Jackson and Fidel Diggs that are kind of now been veterans on that defensive line. What have you seen from them this offseason, and what's kind of your expectations for the end of this year?
I think when you look at leadership, you say, okay, not just what they do for themselves as individuals, but do they get the guys around them to follow them? And I think those two guys, along with Shamar Turner and Isaiah Rakes and a few more of those guys, they did a really good job this offseason just getting the young guys to follow. Whether that's going out to go bowling, whether that's to go eat, or that's those guys doing extra work on their own time. They're getting a lot of guys to follow behind them, and they're making guys around them better. So I think when you talk about leadership skills, that's one of the biggest traits you can see. Do you make people around you better? And those guys are doing that.
So as a fellow assistant, what does Bobby Petrino bring to the staff? What might he do different than other offensive coordinators you work with?
Well, I know he brings great knowledge to the staff. He brings great experience in the things that he's done in the past. To speak specifically on what he does different from others, it's hard for me to answer that, but I know that he gave us some great challenges this spring. You know, he made some things tough on us, but we had to make some adjustments from this spring. And like I say, he's a joy to be around, I'll tell you that.
Well, last season was a little bit of a transition for the D-line because you had a group the year before that was all veterans, a lot of guys went on the NFL, you had a lot more guys stepping in new roles. How much of an adjustment was that for those guys, and how much of a step up do you think the guys up front can take now that they've kind of had some words and taken some of the experience from last year?
Well, I'll tell you, experience is your greatest teacher. You know, so like I said, we had a really good group with DeMarvin Leal and Mike Clemens and Jaden Peavy and Tyree and those guys that played a lot of ball for us. And I remember back when we first got there in 2018, you know, a lot of people talked about Dalen Mack and him being a bust. People didn't realize Justin Matabike didn't play much ball prior to that. We moved Kingsley Kiki, we moved him from a 3-tech out to a strong end. You know, so every year we kind of been there was a guy replacing the next guy. You know, when Dalen Mack and Kiki left, then it was Mike Clemens and Peavy's turn to step in. Then when those guys left, you know, it was Bobby Brown stepping in. You know, so I kind of every year was kind of been a swinging door. I think last year those guys' experience was the whole D-line left as a whole, you know. So again, yes, these guys are talented, but there's nothing like experience when you play in a conference like the SEC conference. Like I said, those guys got a year under their belts being full-time starters, and I'm looking forward to watching those guys and even the younger guys that kind of got thrown to the fire at an early age, watching those guys as they grow older.
How could you feel about the depth of that?
I feel good about it. You know, I feel good about those guys. They're working really hard. Again, they are ready to go out and have a great season. And we just got to teach them one play at a time, one game at a time, and go from there.
About 2 more questions, guys.
Walter Nolan, I think, was one of the highest rated recruits ever at Texas A&M. What went into the recruiting process of getting him there? And then could you speak to his development over the past year? It looks like he's maybe slimmed down some.
Yeah, well, one thing about Walt is about getting into our relationships, and Nick Williams has went on to Colorado now. And I know Nick had a great relationship with him while he was at Georgia, and just he kind of opened that door for us and just built a relationship with him. Again, great family. Great kid, again, talented, but again, you asked him to go out and go play a lot of ball in the SEC conference, you know, and he has slimmed down to get some of the baby fat off of him, but he's starting to put the weight back on. And again, he's a really talented young man, and I think he's going to have a chance to be really special.
Who among that group up front, is there a guy who we haven't seen much of that you think we're going to see a lot of that may take some people by surprise?
You know, you look at that class that everybody raved about, that young D-line class, and they all played in spurts. You know, It'd be interesting to see just kind of as we go into camp, which one of those guys just kind of become ready to be a full-time guy. Again, between LT, Shamar Stewart, again, Walter Nolan, Albert Regis, which you guys don't say his name a bunch, but those guys play a lot of ball for us. So I'm looking forward to this fall camp, and seeing how those guys continue to get better. And one thing I talk about those guys is just not what they can do on the D-line, but who can help us, on special teams, who can help us is all overall. And Albert Regis was a guy that went out and I think blocked 3 field goals last year for us. So just looking for guys that can make an impact all over the field.
Last question. Anybody got anyone?